Hi all, Talia from Madeira, USA here. We are here with Nancy Minnie, our embroidery expert here at headquarters. In the final part of the series, we'll be working with regarding specific garments and fabrics today. Today, she'll be showing best practices while working on rain gear. Its weather resistance cannot be compromised just because we want a little embellishment. So she will be showing us how to seal up those holes while embroidery needles are preserving the integrity of the garment. What's unique about today's Facebook Live is that we actually have a giveaway. A thank you for your time and participation for one special viewer. We love the idea of staying connected with you, so in addition to jumping in and letting us know your questions, let us know your favorite thread types. With that, you will be submitted to a random drawing and the winner will be picked a week from now. We will be in touch and we will touch on that a little bit more throughout the video. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to you, Nancy.
Thank you, Talia. Here we go. So that giveaway is this jacket right here. I'm going to show it to you in a little bit, but it's a beautiful robin's egg blue on one side and black with the complementary robin egg, what do you call that, cording that's on there as well. Piping, I guess is what it's called. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. But right now what we're going to start with is I have a couple of raincoats here that I embroidered on. One has a lining in it, and I'm going to show you how I took that apart. The other one does not have a lining. However, both of these were embroidered using our Easy Tear stick-on product. So what I did do with this guy here, if you want to come on over and kind of hone in on that, this is this design right here. So before I put the 3218, the heat laminate on the back of it, I sprayed it with water quite liberally, gave it a couple of minutes, looked at the back side, and as you can see, it soaked through the back side. So I now have the Easy Heat laminate on the back side. I'll take a picture of that as well. I'm going to show you how I put that on there, but that's the film itself.
That looks great.
Thanks, Talia. So if I did this right, I'm going to spritz this with water. We're going to come back to it in a little bit. And we're going to see if it held back the water. If it didn't hold back the water, then I might have to go back and put a little more heat to it. So I'm going to spray that nice and liberal again. So that's nice and wet. And we're going to let that sit there while we do a little more talking. And demonstrating, of course, because demonstrating is what we're here for. So this is a similar jacket. It's got that like poly, I think it's called like PU, so polyurethane probably, with polyester as well. So it's got that kind of rubbery feeling to it, and that's what keeps the water from penetrating through. So as you can see, it has a really pretty pink lining. This is something you can do if you're also a seamstress like I am. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix this after I apply the 3218. I'm going to talk about that a little bit here as well. But I did just take this little side seam off so that I could get the embroidery up underneath there. So that's the back side, that's the front side. I'm going to show you how I use the Easy Tear stick-on. But let's talk about the product a little bit here. 3218 is a product that's called a heat laminate. And what that really means, and the difference between this and a heat seal, is the fact that this one only has adhesive on one side. So when you put an iron to it, it's going to adhere to the back side of your rain gear. Maybe you're doing an umbrella, maybe you're doing something on Thinsulate, like that jacket is, or you're doing the rain jacket itself. You don't want the back of your embroidery to soak through, because that would be a big wet splotch on your shirt. Certainly if you're in a deluge and the rain's coming down crazy, that's what's going to happen. So this product here is the actual clear part. I'm going to take a little piece off and show you here that there's a release paper on one side, the product is on the other side. And it was coming off before there, so I know it'll come off. It's really only held on by static electricity. So there's the product itself. That's what we're going to be putting on the back side of that. But because we're using heat, whether it's from a home iron that I'm going to use today, or a heat press, this paper acts as a protectant for your iron or your heat press. Much like your Teflon sheets, I think, that you can use as well to protect your fabrics from burning. So that's what the product is. We do have an informational sheet. This should be as a link right now within the comments. So if you want to check that out, you can click on it and you can actually see this. This tells you what the product is that I just talked about. It tells you how to use it, which I'm going to show you how to do. But it also, the more important thing is your flat press numbers, which you can kind of convert over to your iron. If you're using a home iron, we're going to do that today. So that information is kind of important because you need to know how hot it needs to be, and you need to know how long to hold the iron or the press, and you also need to know how much pressure to put on this. So that's what that's for. So without further ado, let's add this onto the back of the purple raincoat. So I'm just cutting out a piece that I know is slightly larger than what I need. So in your embroidery software, you have the ability to print out a design in true size. So once you do that, you now have a template. So I'm going to use this template. So this is what I'm talking about. This is your run sheet. Kind of tells you, well, I mean, it tells you the needles and what you're going to use for colors and things like that. These are just simple random colors. But more importantly, it gave me the shape of the design itself. So I'm just going to cut that out real quick because that, as you can see, is the true size of the design. So it's important that it's the true size. So I just drew probably 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch around the outside because I want it to be slightly larger. But I'm cutting this out so it'll be a template. So I can cut out now, I can cut out the easy film laminate.
And Nancy, what thread types are you using here?
This particular one is well, actually it's a mix of polyneon, our polyester thread, and our classic rayon. The colors I needed for the pinks were available in polyneon, and the greens and the black were available in rayon. So I mixed them. And that's okay, you can do that. With a raincoat, you typically don't need to worry about sun fading or anything like that. So the two of those being used will work well. So now I have my piece of film laminate. I got the paper side up because I want to draw on the paper. The other thing I have to keep in mind is when this one has a little bit of a shape to it. So I actually want to turn it over so that when I have it on the back side, it's the right side. If you're doing a circle or a square, that doesn't usually matter quite as much because it doesn't matter which way it is. And I'm just doing a rough outline here. And if I cut it anything, I'll cut it a little bigger because I want to make sure it goes all the way on the outside of those stitches because we're sealing up the stitches so the rain doesn't get through there.
And don't forget as Nancy's going along, feel free to reach out with any questions and make sure to add your favorite thread type in as well because you will be entered to win this beautiful winter jacket.
And it does have embroidery, but I'm not showing that just yet. It's going to be a surprise. So we'd love to hear from you. All right. There we go. So I'm essentially cutting out on the line. I don't have to worry about the pen that I wrote on there. So if a little bit of that's hanging inside, it doesn't matter because that's the paper. That's going to go away. And because I'm using an iron, and you would do this, I think, with a press as well. You got those Teflon sheets you can use as well. But I'm going to use a press cloth to make sure that I don't burn this guy. So I'm just going to pull my iron over in my ironing board. See if I can raise that up without tipping it over because I'm not short. There we go. So I've got my iron heating up and I've got it on the highest temperature because I am going to use that press cloth. And a press cloth is usually a cotton woven fabric. This one's probably an old sheet that I've just held on to, and I have a supply of these where if it gets dirty or burned or it gets something sticky on it, I toss it. You can buy these. They're typically a little thicker than this one is. So I just fold it in half and use it. And what this does is it just protects that high heat from burning the thread or melting the rain gear that's on there. So now we're going to put our easy heat laminate on the back side of this. This one's a little bit trickier because it does have that lining. I tried to open it up as much as I could so I could get it nice and flat. There we go. Getting pretty good. So this is this. You want to make sure if you put that upside down and you go to put it on your iron or press on that, it's going to stick right to it. And you'll be scrubbing that off the iron shoe, I think it's called, with something really strong. So I've got that covering it. I know that I'm not hanging out anywhere. I don't want that thread. You could always add another piece if you needed to cover any missing spots. But ideally you want to do this once. All right, so I've got my press cloth on there. I'm just going to be careful my iron doesn't touch any of the purple or the orange or the pink because I don't want it to melt. And as I'm holding this, I'm just putting what's called medium pressure on it. I'm not jamming down on it. And you don't have to move it around, but you do want to make sure that you're covering it all. Right there's a little corner. Maybe I'll move up a little. I'm mentally counting to 15 as we're doing this. Not really. I can't do two things at once, but that's okay. Once I take this off, it needs to cool because you've heated up that laminate. You're making it melt onto the back side. And so that I can take that paper off, it needs to cool off. I'm not seeing any melting, so that's good. I think Morgan will be very happy to know that I didn't melt her rain jacket. So while that's cooling off, do we have any questions?
Not yet,
Not yet. Okay. So we're talking, and I'm doing the exact thing that I did for the tan raincoat as well. And actually, maybe we could take a little look. See how I did it there. Fingers crossed. I'm actually seeing a little bit of water, but it's underneath that, so it's not coming through. I do think I have to put another piece right up here because I had a little issue there, and that's where that water I think is from. But the water is for the most part staying inside or on the outside of the jacket, and that'll dry up eventually from the front side. So I feel pretty confident with that, but I think that, like I said, I'm going to add a little more to that one. Certainly you don't want to do this if you're doing high production, so maybe cutting it a little bit bigger, making sure you cover the whole thing is a good idea. So I'm just going to lift up on the corner here. Let's see if I can get it to stay on, and it is. So if you can get right in there, Talia, we can see there's the fabric, the easy film laminate. And as soon as it's cooled off a little bit, I'm probably taking it off a little bit early because I saw it lifting. So we're going to give that a few more minutes. Don't let me forget that, Talia. I'm going to push this guy out of the way.
And Nancy, what would you say that your favorite thread type is? I know that you've been in the embroidery business for quite a while now, so I'm sure that you have a few favorites yourself.
I do. My favorite is Super Twist, and I have it right up here. Always at arm's reach, but Super Twist is my favorite thread, and the reason why is it's sparkly, and I'm not really a super sparkly person by nature, but what I love about this thread is a little goes a long way. So you could put a little bit of this in your design, and it just makes it pop with the sparkle, just because it's super sparkly. The pink one, there's so many different colors. I mean, there's golds, there's silvers, there's oranges, reds, purples, blues, pretty much any color you can think of. So that's my favorite thread to use. And all right, so let's talk about the jacket we're going to give away. So hopefully you've started putting in your favorite threads, because we'd love to hear what you got going on. So for this particular product, like I said, I would call that a robin's egg blue, maybe a little bit more on the blue than the green side. But it's really pretty, and I just happen to have the frosted matte color that's the same thing, same color as that blue. So this is a really cool jacket. It's thin slate on one side and puffy on the other side. And it's reversible. So I'm going to turn it around. And I've got that design popping up. That really made it, I think, a true winter jacket for sure. So that's a snowflake. This design is from Creations by Cara, and just one of their free designs that I found on there. We've worked with her. Tamara's the one that owns it now, and she does an awesome job. So that snowflake, it has some like kind of feathery looks to it. It has kind of French knots going on in there.
It's beautiful, especially in the frosted mat.
Yeah, I love how it just matches the piping, the inside, and you can wear it, like I said, either way. The other nice thing about this coat for an embroiderer is the fact that it has this zipper right here. And this zipper gives you access to pretty much the whole inside of the jacket. But most importantly, I was able to get to the reverse side. I hooped it with the Mighty Hoop. I'm going to show you that as well, with the magnetic hoops. But this pocket let me embroider on this side only, because I didn't want it to go all the way through, because it's reversible. We didn't want to see the back side of the embroidery. I chose not to do it on the blue because there's it's a non-woven interline that's in here. It's kind of fuzzy. I knew that our heat laminate was not going to fit on the back side, or it wouldn't stick to the back side because it's not solid enough for it to do that. So I did it on this. So I'm going to grab our jacket over here and we're going to see if that'll come off. Nice and easy. That should be enough time to clean up, to cool off. Certainly I can feel it. There's no heat in there. So it popped right off without pulling it.
Oh, perfect.
And voila. And I didn't have that same issue I had with the tan jacket where it kind of lifted. I was probably doing it too quick. So now you're going to ask, well, what do you do with that big hole in the middle there? I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew it up. And it'll look good as new. All right. So I don't want to jump around too much, but I've got some stick on we're going to talk about as well. Before we do that, we're going to finish up this jacket here. And this is a magnetic hoop. Probably a lot of you are familiar with this. This is just backing back there, so I don't want to confuse you with that. And these are great for something like this type of material. So not only did I use the stick-on for the rain jackets, because I didn't want to hoop them. They're going to leave a pretty good hoop burn on it, and you don't want to do that because it's very hard to get that hoop burn out of that type of a material because it's a non-woven. So we don't want to do that. So I use the stick-on for that, and I'm going to show that to you. But also for this one, I use the magnetic hoop. So if you've used the magnetic hoops before, you know that you have these little flaps here. I guess I put that coat down, sorry. And those flaps are great for holding on to backing. So I've got an Easy Cut Performance here. I wanted to give it a little more stability, so I'm using, just because of the nature of a non-woven design, fabric, I should say, I wanted to use 2 pieces just to give it a little more. So those little flaps, those hold your backing. Awesome. I'm not going to put that on yet. This is kind of a small size. I don't know if it says what it is on there, but that's probably about, I would say 6 by 6, maybe 5.5 by 5.5 for that particular one. And it's great because it fits right inside here. So I'm embroidering here. I'm pretending I don't have a design here, so hope you can follow me. I want to get it straight. I've got these lines to kind of use, but I also want to get this area, that's where I'm going to embroider. Yes, it's already embroidered before I put the top hoop on. So hold that a little bit. Dan, if you're watching, thank you for watching. Here I am using your favorite magnetic hoops. And I am certainly not as versed in using these as you are with the performance work. It's great talking to you today. And that's all you do.
Easy enough.
Easy peasy. So again, I'm not really that good at using these. So I would probably do that again to get it nice and flat. And that's what you got there. So these hoops are so strong. Oops, I even got some needles in there. The machine definitely would not have liked those. Talking about needles, I pulled out our what we call Teflon needles. They're really not Teflon per se because that's branded, but they are a non-stick needle. So if you think about embroidering on synthetic fabrics or the polyurethane, raincoats, they tend to heat up the needles when you're embroidering, especially if you're embroidering at a really high speed. If you're having trouble with that material sticking to your needles, or maybe you're using the stick-on, or maybe you're using a spray adhesive and you want to avoid the gum buildup, then the Teflon needles or the non-stick needles will do the trick for you. And that'll certainly help it. So this again is the jacket. Hopefully we're getting some comments on your favorite threads, because you will be entered in to win this jacket. And we will private message you to let you know after the winner has been selected. And that's that. I have one more thing I want to show you. Just gonna get this guy out of the way. And so, how do you use stick-on when it comes to something that's hard to hoop? The raincoat, it's the left chest. I'm getting up underneath a lining for one. The other one is not, again, you don't want to hoop it. You don't want to put it in this hoop because it's going to leave a real big hoop burn right there. So we don't want to do that. So you can use your Easy Stick-On for that. Easy Stick-On has, just like the heat laminate, it has a release paper. Notice I put an X there because I want to make sure that's upside. It has a release paper on one side, and on the other side, it has the stabilizer. So it's about a 1.5 ounce tearaway, and that is it. So you could take this off, maybe it's a smaller size for a left just logo and you need to use stick-on for whatever reason. You can actually take it off and you can stick it to the back side of your garment, your fabric, and you can hoop the whole thing. For this one, because we don't want to put those in the hoop, we're going to hoop the backing only. And then we're going to get rid of the paper. And if you can imagine, what's going to happen once you do that is you're going to have stickiness. A lot of stickiness, which is great for sticking things to it. It has a really good adhesive that's on there. So it's a little hard to get in there, but we want that because of that paper. It can actually be slippery on the hoop. So you want to make sure your hoop is nice and tight. Now I'm making sure that's on really well. Now I'm going to grab just a utility knife. And this is not very sharp. If it's sharp, you just need to be a little more careful with it. This one's a little bit on the dull side, so I'm essentially just going to let it ride along the paper. And you can kind of hear it score. You don't want to be pressing down because you don't want to cut the backing that's under there. You just want to cut the paper on the top. So I'm just letting the weight of the knife do the trick. And then you can take and pop that paper up and take it off. I'm going to work on getting this paper off. Use your knife, Nancy. Don't need to be going to the ER today. Nobody wants to do that. Got a little bit left there. Oh, now I want to get that up out of the way. There we go. So I'm noticing it's a little bit not quite tight. So I'm just going to pull on it a little bit, see if I can get it tight, because I want it to be with no wrinkles on it. And that looks a little better. So if I was embroidering on this jacket with the lining, I've opened up my lining. I'm going to get up inside there, and I'm going to stick this area, because I know that's where I'm going to put my design. And I'm going to lay that flat right on here. And what I did was I put it this way, because that's the way it's going to go into the machine. I just turn my design sideways And it took me a few tries to get it straight because I know that I have a zipper here. So that was used as a reference point to be straight, so parallel to the design. And once I had it nice and flat, I used the zipper to measure to the sides so that I knew I was getting it nice and straight. And then you can lift it, you can reposition it many times. So we want to think about this as no design here. I haven't embroidered yet. I'm just putting the fabric on here. Getting it ready to go to the machine so I can embroider. And I also use tape to kind of hold some of the sides down because as you put this in the machine, you don't want these catching on the other needles as it's sliding by them. So I did use a little masking tape, or painter's tape is good. Anything that'll kind of hold it but not damage the fabric. So like you can see, if I didn't like that, I could take it up. I could reposition it. You really just want to make sure that you don't have those wrinkles and you get it nice and flat. Just like with anything else, you want to make sure all that stuff's out of the way because you don't want to be connecting that to the front of the jacket. And it takes a little bit to get it where you need it to be, but that would essentially be ready to take to the machine, pop it in, and let it run the design. And that's how you want to use Easy Tear Stick-On. You can also use this for if you're embroidering on socks. Maybe you had a couple of dog collars that you wanted to put on there. We could put your dog's names on there. It will hold quite a bit of stuff on that. So I don't think I've forgotten anything, have I, Talia?
No, I think we've covered everything.
And I made a nice mess. So. We'll let you focus in on the jacket there. Go ahead and keep putting your comments in up until the end of the month. So we have 30 days this month, I believe. So up to the 30th, put your comments in. Let us know what type of thread you like. And we'll enter you in for a chance to win the jacket. And we'll let you know.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nancy. Of course, needles, easy backing, finishers, and heat seal products are all available to everyone at MadeiraUSA.com. Or if you'd like to call in to 800-225-3001, add it to your next order. Feel free to do that as well. If you didn't hear me mention earlier, we are wrapping up this mini-series where we dove deeper into specific garments. To thank you for your time, attention, and interaction, we'll be looking at the comments about your preferred thread types during this final video between now and the end of the month to randomly select a winner of this lovely jacket. Designed by Creations by Kara, high quality, reversible, medium-sized woman's winter coat embroidered by Nancy herself. So if you haven't already commented, please do so. That's all from us for now. Thanks again for watching. We are Madeira USA, and we will see you next time.